Alright guys, so I'm going to show you guys how to add a portrait to the template I provided, how to grayscale it, and how to add some dividing lines to help us draw it. So if you go to the assignment on Google Classroom, in which I am having you submit your portrait, the actual picture you'll be using as a reference, you should see a blank Google slide that is 8 inches by 10 inches. That is the size of the canvas we will be using. So I want you to think about all these edges being the canvas itself. So it is in portrait position, so a vertical composition. Once you have decided on which photo you are going to use, make sure that it hits all the criteria. You can see that criteria on this assignment and in our unit slides. You're going to go to Insert, and it's going to look slightly different on my end because I'm on desktop versus Chromebook, but it should be roughly the same. You hit Insert, you hit Image, and hopefully you've downloaded it to your computer, your drive, wherever it is at. So it might be in the drive. Upload from computer is where I always find my stuff. So we click Upload from computer. It should bring up your most recent files. If it's not automatically set to downloads, you're going to want to make sure to click to downloads. Again, make sure this is slightly different than Chromebook, but downloads button should be the same. Sometimes it's under camera roll depending on how you took the photo. Once you have located the picture you're going to be using, double click to insert the image. Now, depending on what your source of the image is, it may pretty much fit the 8 by 10 already, but it may not. So I want you guys first sizing it so it fits this 8 by 10 area. And I don't want it to go over, so I'm going to first stretch mine to make sure I have as much of me as possible. And what I did right there, sorry, did it on accident. I'm cropping the image. For me, that's a double click, but I can hit crop if I stretched it. And then I'm going to crop it down to fit the canvas. It should lock into place. Click off to the side and it crops. So you can see that now my picture is the same size as the canvas. If there's a little bit of white around, that's totally fine. I can still also decide that I don't actually want to have this much negative space. This is a lot of negative space. So I could also continue to stretch it. And by stretch, I want you stretching diagonally so the proportions stay the same. Don't do the awkward that stretch. We don't want that. So diagonal stretch, I'm going to get myself a little bit more locked in there. Crop, cropping down until it locks into place, or you see those red lines there. Again, I can double check. Yes, it fits the canvas. Perfect. So once it is the size that you want, the portrait is taking up most of the positive space, there's not a whole lot in the background, you could leave it like this and submit. However, to make it easier for finding your values, you may want to go a little bit deeper and make our picture grayscale. To do that, you'll click on the image and you're going to find format options. It'll be in this top toolbar. If it doesn't show up, it might be where it has the 3 dots that say more. Click on those, format options. It should now bring up a bar on the right-hand side that has a bunch of different options. For this image, we are looking at recolor. You click on recolor. There will be some preset recolors already in there, and that's going to be our best bet. So if you click on where it says no recolor, click that box, you can take a look and scroll through the different options of color. I do not want you picking a color monochromatic one because it kind of makes the grayscale a little bit weird. And then I don't want you thinking too much about color, I want you thinking about value. The best ones I found is if you scroll towards the bottom where it says grayscale. Grayscale is really fantastic, kind of grays it out. The contrast does get a little funky. You can see I have this sculpture behind me is kind of merging into my head. because the values of the sculpture and my hair are pretty similar. So if you're not liking how grayscale looks, you could also play with light 1, which has a lighter composition, lighter values, a little hard to work with sometimes. Dark 2 if you want it to be a little bit more high contrast. And then really those are the only 2 good ones. So start with grayscale, see what you like, and then if you need to adjust. For my people that are a little bit more comfortable doing digital edits, you've taken digital design 1, 2, or photography, or you do this in your free time, you could go down to adjustments as well and play with the brightness and contrast. I typically do that on mine. I like a higher brightness, higher contrast. However, you don't want to create that kind of contrast. A little bit scary and also not enough diversity in our values. So up to you how you want to play with it. I'm going to contrast mine just slightly so that sculpture doesn't look so much in the background. And I am going to go into that light 1 as well. Just for my personal taste, I just futzing with it until I have good different values. You want to make sure your values are different. Exit out of that, and it is now grayscale. The last thing you can do to help in the drawing portion is give yourself some guidelines. I like plopping down just a simple quadrant, which sounds fancier than it is, in order for me to see where the face is lining up, how it fits within the canvas, etc., etc. Because we'll have carbon paper as an option for transferring our images, it's not as necessary, but for those who are doing the freehand drawing, this might help you place your proportions. So to put down a quadrant, I'm going to go to the line tool. The line tool is the little line with the 2 dots at the end. I click on that box, and I can now draw a line. So you'll see the little crosshairs and purple dots that line up on the picture itself. So I'm going to start with my vertical line. I'm going to click and drag from one purple dot to the other purple dot. So that gives me a nice vertical line. I'm not going to be able to see that line. So I am now going to go over to this section here on the top toolbar where it has line weight. So it's these dashes that are thick to thin. I'm going to go about a 3. You'll want at least 3. You can go up to a 4. Further, whatever works. I don't want to cover my face, but I do want to see the line. I'm also going to change the color. For me, I like using red, but anything bright that contrasts against the background will do. So now I have a vertical line so I could see that this is an asymmetrical composition. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to click on line tool, and this time I'm going to go horizontally across, dragging one end to the other on that purple dot. Sometimes it saves the line width, etc. Sometimes it doesn't, so I'm going to go again to a 3 or 4. I'm going to change my line color. Boom. If you notice that your portrait portion is not taking up most of the canvas, you will probably want to restretch, recrop, etc. I am going to fix my crop a little bit. There we go. Just making sure it fits my canvas perfectly. There is a good setup for how to add a picture to Google Slides, change the grayscale, and add some guidelines. If you have any questions, please let me know. You can turn in the assignment at any stage. Just make sure you have a high quality portrait.